So welcome. If this is your first time and attending a Parkinson's Foundation Mindfulness Monday, welcome to you and welcome back to all of you who are returning to your practice. Our next live English session will be on March 27th. So next week is kind of our off week where we'll be hosting our Spanish education event. So our next live one will be next on March 27th. This Friday, we're hosting our Fitness Friday, our live Fitness Friday, where we will be inviting Dance for PD Parkinson's fitness instructor, Deanna Daly, Balance in Motion. So it should be a lot of fun. Myself will be there. We'll be moving together. So if you guys are up for the challenge, I'll see y'all on the dance floor this Friday. Our New York, New Jersey Parkinson's Symposium is on March 27th, or is it the 26th, Sunday the 26th. And Jennifer's going to drop the link in the chat for you guys to learn more about that. That's being hosted online and in person. So if you are in the area, check out the information there to learn more about what we'll be covering. If you're new to Parkinson's, you find yourself embracing a change in your journey, know that the Parkinson's Foundation is here for you. We have extensive amounts of content, research, and materials to support you through the journey. Our webpage is on there and our helpline 1-800-4PD-INFO. And now let's tune into our mindfulness practice where we welcome back Dr. Taylor Rush. Thank you, Dr. Rush, for joining us today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Krista. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you all this day after daylight savings for those of you in states that still observe this archaic ritual. So hopefully it's starting to maybe get a little warm wherever you are. I know here in Cleveland, we had a little bit of a false spring for a couple of weeks, and now we're back into the normal swing of sleet / snow / rain / cold. So I'm hoping that things will start to clear up here soon. So today, I was thinking a little bit about what I wanted to share with you guys and what I wanted to explore in a little bit more detail. And I thought that maybe we could talk a little bit about making mindful choices. And I was thinking about this topic because, I often hear from my patients about how we all tend to go into kind of autopilot mode. And I admit just as much as anyone that I tend to do this as a normal state of operations, that, I'm very task oriented. I like having to-do lists. I like being able to check them off. I like having routines. Those things are very safe for me. They make me feel like I have some control over my life. And I find that, it helps me kind of drive towards certain goals. However, what I find and what many of my patients also share with me is that in everyday life and the routines that we find ourselves in, that sometimes we can end up becoming very mindless. And so as we're trying to incorporate some of what we practice here on Mondays in terms of being mindful, a lot of my patients ask, how can I incorporate being mindful better on a day-to-day basis? How can I enhance this? And so when we think about the power of choice in being mindful, I think there's a whole array of things that we can reflect on that maybe we don't consider in normal day-to-day life. And so if we think about even just, again, on a day-to-day basis, the mundane parts of life, we face a whole heck of a lot of choices. And we don't even realize it. We choose what we do, what we eat, where we go, who we talk to, how much time we spend on different activities. And there has been some research that suggests that we make up to 35,000 decisions a day. And that may seem like a lot, but if we really think about all the small or unconscious decisions we make in a day, they tend to add up. And even if we think about it in terms of if you get on your iPad or your computer or your phone, you choose which emails to look at, which ones to delete, which links to click on in social media, what news articles you read versus the ones that you skip. There are so many decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis that we may not even realize are decisions. And so we end up kind of going into this autopilot mode and not even realize what we're doing or what we're exposing ourselves to or how we're doing it. And so we do these things on routine, or we may defer decisions to someone else. The unending question of, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? I don't care. Where do you want to go for dinner tonight? How do you rely on others to sometimes make decisions for you because you're not sure you want to think about it, or you want to, cater to the other person, or, what route are you going to take to go to the store or the pharmacy, or, who is it that you're going to spend time with today? Some of those things are just part of our built-in routine on day-to-day life. Some of it can sometimes be set by intention, and sometimes it's set by what others say that they want us to do. So for me, my work tells me that I need to be, in the office by a certain hour so that I can start seeing patients. That's not really something that I control. That's something that my employer controls. And so, so I end up making decisions that then affect what time I get up in the day, or what activities I can do before I come to work versus what activities I do after work, and how I tend to spend some of my time during the day. And so, sometimes when we go into that autopilot mode, or we rely on others to make some of those decisions for us, it means that our brains don't have to think as much or as hard about the details about what's going on in our lives. And sometimes, while that can be good, our brain sets up, shortcuts so that we don't always have to think too hard. Our brain likes to be efficient. Our brain likes to create heuristics so that we can use it on other things, And so while it can be helpful to have routines in place, sometimes the less details that we may notice about our lives, the more mindless we tend to be. And so that can lead to us being what's called sometimes frequently in error and rarely in doubt. And that's actually a quote by a social psychologist named Dr. Ellen Langer. And she's actually done a lot of research on the power of choice and how that can make us more mindful and understand our world better and enrich our lives more. And so, we do many things because it's just the way that they're always done, rather than what may serve us best or what we may actually enjoy. And sometimes that can lead to the days going by very fast because we're just kind of on autopilot going through the motions. And so if you've ever been, at the end of the day and you're kind of like, where did it go? What happened today? I felt like I just woke up not too long ago and now it's over. And, how did I get here? And how do I feel about where I am right now? Because everything just kind of went by. And again, I'm just as guilty about this as anyone. And, there are days when I'm not sure where all the time went, but I know I was doing something. And, and sometimes what I hear from some of my patients who've been around a few more decades than I have is that those days turn into months, turn into years, and they kind of look back, scratching their head saying, where did that time go? And, some of it is just that time and our perception of it changes over the course of the years. But some of it is also that when we go into autopilot, we end up missing chunks of time because it all looks exactly the same. And so, I will often see with my patients, as well as their families, their care partners, that decisions in day-to-day life start to become less apparent. People sink into those normal routines, and that can result in some kind of default decision making. It is what it is, and they just do it because they've always done it. And that can sometimes lead to people feeling less engaged, less empowered, and less purposeful. And what I also find is that for some of the people that I work with Parkinson's, as time goes on and their symptoms progress, they may need more assistance with tasks. And that sometimes means that they end up disengaging from choice, which can then contribute to increased depression and apathy. So for instance, if someone is no longer able to safely drive, they may stop asking to go out as much, and some of that is logistics, and they don't want to necessarily overutilize their resources, but some of it's also like, yeah, it's not me driving, it's not really my choice, so I'm not really going to have much input on this, so I'm not going to bother. And sometimes, again, that can mean that they're less social, less engaged, and less motivated to do the things that they would normally do, not only outside of the house, but inside the house as well. And so, one classic study, and this was actually done by Dr. Langer, and this is actually back in the 80s, and some of you may have heard of it. It's a pretty classic study where they went into a nursing home where, individuals, they have a pretty, regular routine, and, there are meals that are served, and there are times a day that meds are given. And, what they did with half the patients that they studied was they gave them choices about things. They gave them choices about, or at least made already choices that they had available more apparent. So what do you want to wear today? Where do you want to go first? Do you want to go to the dining hall first, or do you want to, swing by the rec room first? Do you want to, go to crafts today, or do you want to go out on the porch today? And what they also did is they gave them a plant to take care of as a way to give them not only, a sense of a goal, but also giving them choices. How much do you water it today? Do you put it nearer the sun today? Do you give it fertilizer this week? And so they did that against another set of patients that were just, there resided in the nursing home as they normally would. And what they found a year later is that the individuals who were given choices about their daily life and had the plant to take care of had a significantly lower mortality rate and a greater quality of life. They felt happier, they felt more connected, and they felt a bit more purposeful about their life within their environment of this nursing home. So it really highlighted the importance of what she calls the psychology of possibility, looking at situations in terms of the choices that you have to make, looking at them in terms of even the everyday stuff. What can you do in order to show that you have choice in your own life? And then there's also someone named Simon Sinek, and he's an author and he's a corporate consultant, and he does a lot in the business world, but he has something called infinite mindset, which I think is again, psychologically makes a lot of sense, but I like how he frames it, is that when we make decisions, it's a lot of times we have this win, lose, or right, wrong kind of paradigm that if, a decision that we make needs to mean that we get ahead or we win something, or we make a decision because it's the right thing to do versus the wrong thing to do. When he says we actually need to challenge ourselves to get out of that binary right, wrong, on, off kind of mindset and make decisions that are ways that we build relationships and connection, ways that we work towards a common good and align with values. And by doing that, it can lead to greater creativity, more adaptive decision-making, and better connection to our values, to ourselves, as well as to others. And so to me, being able to use mindfulness as a way to, kind of consciously and presently make decisions, mindfully make decisions on a day-to-day basis can be a way that we infuse it into our lives in a more organic, natural kind of way. And so, by being able to frame any decision as a choice, because every decision is a choice rather than a have to, if we can frame it as a decision, we can sometimes take a little pressure off, and we can be more engaged in a process, have some fun, and sometimes see the details of the mundane and everyday life as a little bit richer. And so, that can be anything. That can be, what coffee cup do I decide I want to use in the morning? What is it that I want to, put on and wear today? And so even if I'm in pajamas and I just want to stay in pajamas, maybe I change into different pajamas. What kind of shower do I want to take today? Do I want a, cooler, invigorating shower, or do I want something warm and soothing? So even though we may think that, everything we do is just kind of part of day-to-day life, we can sometimes create, or at least acknowledge what choice there is in some of those decisions. And sometimes we'll still make the same decisions, but other times, maybe you want to make a different decision. Maybe you want to try something different. Maybe, I haven't drank my coffee black in, 20 years, but I'm just going to try it and see how it feels to drink it, without anything added to it today. See what I think. It might taste a little different than it did the last time I tried it. And so we cultivate, again, that, that beginner's mind, and we've talked about that before, as a way to create a little bit more dimension and a little bit more choice in our day-to-day life. So what I thought we'd do is just briefly go through kind of a guided imagery sort of meditation where we kind of walk through a morning routine as a way to challenge yourself to see the choices that may exist in day-to-day life. And so again, this is just a practice, and I'm, going to be spitballing a little bit as to what a morning routine may look like for you. I'm kind of creating one out of an amalgam of what I hear from the people that I work with, but I will, certainly you can ad lib this in your brain a little depending on your particular routine and who is in your life. So let's go ahead and get settled in your chair, your couch, your lazy boy, whatever you find yourself sitting in today. And as with most of our practices, we'll start by slowly focusing on the breath, just as a way to anchor our minds, allow ourselves to settle. And bringing your intention to our exercise here today. We're going to do a little exploration of choice if you would like to join me. And if not, you can just stay focused on your breath. So I want you to imagine that it's around the time that you usually get up each morning and you're still in bed, under your covers. It may be that an alarm wakes you up or that you wake up naturally. And once your eyes open, think about the next choice that you have and what you might normally do. For some people, it's swatting the snooze button. For some people, it's doing a quick body scan of how they're feeling. For some people, it might be checking their phone, maybe doing some brief stretches to help with the rigidity. Just think about what choice you make upon opening your eyes. And then what comes next? Do you turn over and fall back asleep? Do you get up? Do you reach for your medication to start that process of it kicking in? Do you get up to use the bathroom? Your bladder is the loudest part of you that's on your body at the moment. Do you get upright and put on slippers? What are those next choices that you tend to make? And slowly, as your body wakes up, what do you do next? Do you turn on the TV or the radio? Do you start exploring the kitchen and maybe getting a beverage ready, getting food ready? And what choices are you making in terms of what utensils you use, what plates or cups you use? I know for me, sometimes I need a bigger mug of coffee, so I'm going to get the biggest one I can find versus a smaller one if I'm feeling a bit more cogent. Think about the choices that you make in these small but meaningful ways. If you do turn on the TV, what is it that you're watching? What is it that you're feeding into your brain? Are you listening to music or a podcast or the news? What is it that you are creating for your day first thing? And in thinking about these choices that you're making, is there anything that strikes you as maybe not serving you well? Or anything in particular that you're glad that you do because it brings you a sense of joy or a way to connect to your day? Again, this is not an exercise in what you should do or what you shouldn't do. It's not right or wrong. It's choice. It's seeing that there are degrees of freedom, seeing the windows of possible opportunity for making different choices, or sometimes the same choices, but with intention for how it serves you. This sometimes helps us carve a little extra space to breathe within our choices so that we can be mindful with our experiences. Notice details about what we may not otherwise appreciate, like the mold of your coffee cup around your hand, or the taste of your toast, or the warmth of your tea. But as we try to connect with our lives and with ourselves through mindfulness, we can use the power of choice to help get us there. As you continue to think about your choices, slowly bring your attention back to your breath, checking in with yourself. Maybe noticing if this experience made you feel a little more connected, maybe a little more concerned about your morning routine. Whatever emotions come up, it's fine. Just noticing your reactions to the idea of choice, allowing it to be on your radar for today and maybe tomorrow and beyond. Remembering it's the details that matter. the things that end up being most relevant to our day-to-day. And giving yourself the power to make the decisions that work for you. And so I encourage everyone to think about how they want to acknowledge the choices that they make in day-to-day life. And maybe just choosing one time a day that you try this and then expanding it to other times of day as you feel comfortable. But trying it at least once and see how it feels. And when you're ready, coming back to our space, opening your eyes when it feels right, shifting your shoulders, wiggling those fingers and toes, and maybe taking one more deep breath to settle back into your active environment. All right. Seeing more eyes. Looks like folks are coming back to us. So, any thoughts from folks? Any reactions to our topic today? Our brief imagery on choice? Anything that you may have noticed or would like to notice about some of the choices that you make in an average day? It is an odd idea about, how do we create choice within, some of the normal day-to-day routines of life. So, and it's perfectly okay to tell me exactly that this is an interesting idea to explore today. So we have one person that said, I realize I'm often on autopilot and it was helpful to focus on choices. And someone else said, good reminder that we have choices. Sometimes it seems like we don't. And I think a lot of times we do end up tend to focus on the things that we don't have control over or the choices that we don't get to make. And that almost ends up taking us over rather than sometimes focusing on these areas where we may have choice because we don't think that maybe those choices matter as much. But the research shows that it does. Someone said, I realize there's so many choices in my morning routine. I haven't thought about the number of choices that I make in a day. And then this exercise was calming and motivating that choices are good to focus on for our well-being. Good. Well, I'm glad to hear folks found this helpful because that's, it's something that I try to challenge myself to do on a day-to-day basis. Because again, I find myself in autopilot just as much. And sometimes I do find that it means that I end up missing out on things. On Sundays, kind of like my cleaning and catch-up day. And so I was in cleaning and catch-up mode yesterday, trying to get things done. And my younger daughter was in a particular mood yesterday where she was just kind of very interested in capturing my attention. And I found myself kept saying, yes, I'll get to it. Yes, I'll look at your drawing later. Yes, I'm going to get to it. And, I realized about halfway through, I'm like, it's okay that, this other stuff will get done. You know, the floors will get clean, you know, the laundry will get done. I can make a choice to interact with her for 2 minutes on some of these, you know, crafts that she's devising out of old Amazon boxes. I can do that. And so realizing that I had that choice to make, I think, you know, it helped me to kind of slow down, and I think it helped us to, you know, have a moment of connection that I would have maybe otherwise missed. So I think that those things, you know, they, as small as they are, can really end up mattering. So, and let's see here. So we just attended lifelong classes, learning classes on mindfulness. I think we could all use that. And it helps to see the choices and to take responsibility for the choices that I make. And I think, you know, having ownership over that ends up being so important to realize I get to make these choices. Again, it's not a have to. I don't have to, I get to. And sometimes even that small change in phrase can make a big difference in how we approach some of those day-to-day tasks. So language matters.
Thank you, Dr. Resch.
Thank you, Krista.
It's something I use all the time is I don't have to go to work, I get to go to work, or I get to host Mindfulness Mondays, or I get to go here and do this, I get to go to exercise. So it's a beautiful phrase to kind of end us on. So whatever you get to do it mindfully. And we'll see you guys on March 27th for our next live session. Dr. Resch, thank you so much for guiding us today and for all of you for showing up mindfully. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye, everyone.